No maid lasted with the billionaire's new wife, until a new black maid did the impossible. The bucket of dirty water spread across the Italian marble floor like a small flood. Victoria Richards watched from the staircase, holding her teacup like a crown, while the 42-year-old woman knelt to clean up the mess she had made. "Third time this week someone's blocked my way," Victoria said, descending the steps with the calculated elegance of someone born to humiliate. "I'm not in the mood for this." Diana Santos didn't say a word. She just picked up the mop and got to work, her soaked slippers making a wet sound against the floor. The other employees whispered in the hallway, another one who wouldn't last a week. But they didn't know Diana. At 42, she had buried her pride long ago, when her 9-year-old daughter needed heart surgery and the hospital bills began to pile up like a silent avalanche. Diana wasn't there to make friends or defend her dignity. She was there to survive. The mansion on Bishop Drive was known for two things: its breathtaking view of the bay and its impossible employee turnover. In 6 months, 9 maids had walked out the same black door. Some crying, some silent, one even forgot her shoes in her rush to escape. Victoria was the second wife of William Richards, a 58-year-old oil tycoon. She was 33, had perfect skin, and a tongue sharp enough to cut glass. The older employees whispered that she made up for the age difference with extra cruelty, as if she needed to constantly prove she deserved to be there. "Do you understand English?" Victoria asked, watching Diana dry the floor. "Because when I speak, I expect a response." "Yes, ma'am," Diana replied quietly, still working. "Good. Because disorganized people make me nervous. And when I get nervous," Victoria left the sentence hanging in the air like a veiled threat. Diana nodded, finishing cleaning. But as she worked, her eyes caught something Victoria didn't notice: the small security camera in the corner of the room, capturing every second of this gratuitous humiliation. Victoria climbed the stairs, satisfied with yet another display of power, unaware that she was dealing with someone completely different from her previous maids. Diana wasn't just another victim desperate for a job. She was a woman who had learned to turn pain into strategy. And as she dried her hands on her apron, an almost imperceptible smile crossed her face. If you're enjoying this story of how patience can be the most powerful weapon against arrogance, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what Diana would do in the coming days would prove that sometimes the quietest person in the room is exactly the one you should fear. Diana's first days at the Richards mansion followed a cruel and predictable pattern. Victoria woke up at 9 in the morning demanding coffee at exactly 72 degrees. Not hotter, not colder. When Diana got the temperature right, Victoria complained about the sugar. When she got the sugar right, the cup was dirty. When the cup was perfect, the coffee had gone cold. "Are you hard of hearing?" Victoria asked on the 4th morning, deliberately spilling coffee on the $5,000 Persian rug. "Because I swear I explained yesterday how I want my coffee." Diana knelt down to clean the stain, discreetly watching as Victoria posted a selfie on Instagram with a caption: "Some days you have to teach people how to do things right. #MadamLife #standards." 15,000 likes in 20 minutes. What Victoria didn't know was that Diana had worked as an administrative manager at a hospital for 12 years before her daughter Emma needed a second heart surgery. The medical bills had eaten away at her savings, forcing her to take any job that paid enough to keep the appointments coming. Diana knew women like Victoria well. She had dealt with the wives of arrogant doctors who treated the staff like furniture. The difference was that now she had to swallow every humiliation in silence because Emma depended on that $3,500 a month paycheck. "My last maid lasted exactly 4 days," Victoria said casually as Diana folded clothes. "You know why? Because she thought she could play smart with me. She quickly found out that I don't tolerate insubordination." Victoria opened her laptop and showed the screen to Diana. It was a post in a closed Facebook group called Elite Ladies Network, where she had written, "Does anyone have any recommendations for a maid? The last one I hired was completely incompetent and I had to fire her. These people don't understand that quality comes at a price." 143 supportive comments from other madams sharing similar stories about the difficulty of finding good help these days. Diana read everything silently, but mentally noted every detail. Victoria didn't just humiliate her employees personally, she exposed them publicly to her wealthy friends for entertainment. "You can read, right?" Victoria laughed. "Or do you want me to translate?" "I understand perfectly, ma'am," Diana replied calmly, continuing to fold the clothes with military precision. The following week, Victoria stepped up her psychological games. She hid the vacuum cleaner and then yelled at Diana for not cleaning properly. She changed the Wi-Fi password and accused Diana of stealing internet when she tried to check messages about Emma during her lunch break. The worst came on Friday. Diana was cleaning William's office when she found an open folder on his desk, documents about donations to the Children's Heart Foundation, the same organization that had helped with part of Emma's surgery costs. Victoria walked into the office at that moment and saw Diana looking at the papers. "Curious, aren't you?" Victoria said, snapping the folder shut. "My husband loves to play the philanthropist. He donates thousands to these useless charities that just encourage dependency in people who should be solving their own problems." Diana felt the blood drain from her face, but she kept her expression neutral. "You know what I always say to him?" Victoria continued, clearly amused. "Charity begins at home. Why waste money on strangers when we could be renovating the beach house?" That night, Diana called Emma from the small maid's room. Her 9-year-old daughter sounded tired but excited to tell her about the new book she was reading at school. "Mommy, when are you coming home?" Emma asked, her voice heavy with longing. "Soon, sweetheart. Mommy just needs to work a little longer to make sure you stay strong and healthy." After hanging up, Diana opened a small notebook where she wrote down Victoria's schedules, comments, and behaviors. Every humiliation was documented with the date, time, and context. Every malicious post on social media was screenshotted and saved. Diana wasn't just a desperate maid trying to survive. She was a woman who had learned to turn every blow into fuel for something greater. And while Victoria slept peacefully in her silk bed, convinced of her superiority, Diana quietly planned something that the arrogant madam would never see coming. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room isn't being submissive, they're gathering ammunition. And when you underestimate someone who has everything to lose and nothing to fear, you're about to discover that patience can be the most lethal weapon of all. Diana's second week at the mansion began with Victoria testing new limits of cruelty. During breakfast, she posted a video on TikTok showing Diana cleaning the floor, with the caption, "POV, you have to supervise every move because some people just don't understand quality standards." The video reached 50,000 views in 2 hours. Diana watched it all from the corner of the kitchen, mentally adding another piece to the puzzle she was putting together. Every post, every mean comment, every public humiliation was being meticulously catalogued in her little notebook and digital backup. "Did you see my video?" Victoria asked casually as Diana served lunch. "My followers loved it. Some even asked if you were available to work for them too." She laughed loudly. "Obviously, I told them you're still on probation." What Victoria didn't know was that Diana had spent the last 3 days doing much more than just cleaning the mansion. During the early hours of the morning, while the family slept, she used the office computer to research the Richards family extensively, their companies, and most importantly, William's donations to charitable organizations. That's how she discovered something fascinating. William Richards didn't just donate to the Children's Heart Foundation. He was a member of the board of directors and had recently increased his contribution significantly, specifically for pediatric heart surgery cases involving low-income families. On Wednesday, Diana had her first real stroke of luck. While organizing William's office, she overheard a phone conversation that would completely change her strategy. "Dr. Martinez, I understand completely," William said on the phone, walking across the room without noticing Diana silently rearranging books. "The foundation needs more documented cases to show the real impact of our donations. Personal stories always touch other donors more." Diana froze. Dr. Martinez was the pediatric cardiologist who had operated on Emma. Of course, William continued. "If you have any current cases of families struggling to pay for procedures, that would be perfect for our presentation next week. Especially if they have an inspiring story of overcoming adversity." When William hung up, Diana was finishing organizing the last shelf, but her mind was racing. A bold idea was beginning to take shape. That night, Diana did something she hadn't done in months. She called her former boss at the hospital, Dr. Sarah Chun, with whom she had worked for a decade before medical bills forced her to seek higher-paying jobs. "Diana. What a surprise. How are you? And Emma?" Sarah's warm voice brought tears to Diana's eyes. "We're surviving, Sarah. Actually, I'm calling because I need a very specific favor." Diana carefully explained her situation, omitting the most humiliating details but emphasizing that she was working for a family with connections to the Children's Heart Foundation. Interesting, Sarah said thoughtfully. You know we have several cases similar to Emma's here at the hospital, don't you? Desperate families, children in need of expensive surgeries. And coincidentally, Dr. Martinez mentioned that they are looking for cases for an important presentation. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, Diana said, feeling her heart race. Over the next few days, Diana began to implement the first phase of her plan. During her daily chores, she subtly mentioned to William small details about her own situation. Never directly, always as casual comments he might overhear during phone conversations with Sarah or Emma's doctor's appointments. Doctor, yes, she's recovering well from the last surgery, Diana said on the phone in the kitchen, knowing that William was having breakfast at the table next to her. The problem is that we need specialized care, but insurance only covers 60%. No, I can't miss work right now, I need to keep this job. William began to pay attention. Diana could feel his curious glances, see him pause his activities when she talked about Emma. He was a successful businessman, but he was also a father. He had lost his first wife during the birth of a daughter who did not survive. The pain was always there, disguised under his professional composure. Meanwhile, Victoria intensified her attacks. She discovered that Diana had used the office computer during the night, the security cameras had recorded it, and exploded. You thought I wouldn't find out? Victoria shouted, waving her finger in Diana's face. Using our private property without permission? That's a breach of contract and grounds for immediate dismissal. Diana remained calm. I apologize, ma'am. I needed to check some information about my daughter's medical treatment. I didn't access anything personal. I don't care. You have no right to touch anything that isn't your cleaning duties. Victoria was clearly losing control. And since you want to use a computer so badly, how about scanning all the files in the office by hand? You have until Friday. It was an impossible task, hundreds of documents that would take weeks to scan manually. But Diana nodded calmly. Of course, ma'am. I'll get started right away. What Victoria didn't realize was that this punishment would give Diana complete access to William's personal and business files, including all correspondence with charitable organizations, donation records, and most importantly, his contact list of other philanthropists and board members. That night, while digitizing the files, Diana discovered something that made her blood boil. Victoria had intercepted and blocked at least 3 attempts by William to increase the family's donations. There were emails where she argued that too much charity creates dependency, and that the money would be better invested in more strategic causes, such as the beach house renovation she wanted. Even more shocking, Victoria had used the couple's joint account to make a $50,000 donation to a charity organization that was actually a luxury spa disguised as a retreat where she and her friends went every month. Diana photographed everything. Every email, every bank transfer, every fraudulent receipt. And then she discovered the final piece of the puzzle. The Children's Heart Foundation presentation was scheduled for next Monday, and William was going to give a speech about how personal stories of overcoming adversity inspire others to contribute to noble causes. Sitting alone in her office at 2 a.m, surrounded by evidence of Victoria's hypocrisy and with a plan taking shape in her mind, Diana smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a smile of joy, it was the smile of someone who had finally found all the pieces needed to build something her oppressors would never see coming. Victoria thought she was punishing Diana by forcing her to work with the archives. But in reality, she had just handed her maid all the tools she needed for her own destruction. And the most ironic thing of all was that Victoria's own arrogance, her compulsive need to document and control everything, would be exactly what brought her down. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest or bangs their fists on the table. It's the one who works quietly in the wee hours of the morning, turning every humiliation into fuel for a revenge so precise and devastating that it will not only change their own life, but completely rewrite the rules of the game. Monday arrived with a perfect autumn morning. Victoria woke up excited, posting a morning selfie with the caption, "Ready to support my husband's charity presentation today. #power couple #philanthropy #blessed." 53,000 likes in an hour. Diana served coffee at the exact temperature, as always. But this time when Victoria picked up her phone to check her notifications, she found something unexpected. A direct message on Instagram from an account called Truth About Charity. Mrs. Richards, you may want to check your email before today's presentation. Some interesting information about your philanthropic activities may be relevant. Victoria frowned, annoyed. Probably just another hater trying to get attention. But curiosity got the better of her, and she opened her email. What she found made her blood run cold. A complete folder with screenshots of all her fraudulent transactions. Emails where she diverted charity donations to her personal retreats. Bank records showing $50,000 donated to the luxury spa. And worse, private conversations where she mocked the pathetic families William helped through the foundation. "William!" she screamed, running to the office. "Someone hacked our accounts." But William wasn't there. He had left early for the foundation's preparatory meeting. And Diana? Diana was calmly organizing the dining room, as if nothing had happened. "You." Victoria pointed her finger at Diana. "You did this." Diana looked at her with a genuinely confused expression. "Did what, ma'am?" Victoria held her phone up to Diana's face. "These lies. These false accusations." Diana examined the screen carefully, as if seeing it for the first time. "I don't understand, ma'am. These are your emails, your transactions. How can they be fake if they have your digital signature?" That's when Victoria realized the true horror of the situation. They weren't fakes. They were real. Every screenshot, every document, all authentic, meticulously collected from her own files during those nights Diana had spent digitizing documents as punishment. Victoria's phone began to ring incessantly. First, a journalist from a local celebrity blog. Then 3 other reporters. Apparently, the same folder had been sent simultaneously to 6 different media outlets. "Mrs. Richards, could you comment on the allegations of charity fraud that have just been released?" Victoria hung up on the first one, but they kept calling. And then came the worst call of all. "Victoria." It was William, his voice cold in a way she had never heard before. "You need to come here right now. The Foundation's board has received some troubling information." "William, I can explain everything. Someone is trying to sabotage me." "Victoria." His voice cut like glass. "Dr. Martinez just showed me emails from you where you refer to the families we help as social parasites looking for handouts. You wrote that. With your own email address." Dead silence. "And there's more," William continued. "Apparently, one of the families we help, one of their daughters works in our house. For 3 weeks." Victoria felt the world crumble. "Wait, you're saying that?" Diana Santos. Mother of Emma Santos, 9 years old, heart surgery sponsored by our foundation. The same Emma you called another lost cause draining resources from productive people in an email to your friends. Victoria looked at Diana, who was calmly folding napkins on the dining room table. Their eyes met, and for the first time in weeks, Diana smiled. Not a malicious or vengeful smile, a sad, almost maternal smile. "The presentation has been cancelled," William said. "And you are no longer welcome at the foundation. In fact, they are considering legal action." Victoria hung up and turned to Diana, trembling with rage. "You destroyed me. You planned this from day one." Diana stopped folding napkins and looked directly at Victoria. "No, ma'am. I came here to work and take care of my daughter. You destroyed yourself. I just documented it. You're a snake. A parasite who infiltrated my home. You know what's ironic?" Diana said, her voice calm as ever. "If you had simply treated me like a human being, none of this would have happened. I would have worked quietly, earned my salary, and you would never have known who I was." Victoria tried to fight back, but the words wouldn't come. Because deep down, she knew Diana was right. The phone rang again. This time it was a TV reporter asking if she would like to give an interview about the allegations of philanthropic misconduct. In the background, she could hear other phones ringing, assistants, socialite friends, probably all wanting answers. Diana grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Oh, one more thing," she said, pausing in the doorway. "Dr. Martinez was so impressed with the family dedication shown in the documentation you sent that he has decided to create a special program for children of domestic workers. Emma will be the first beneficiary. Free monthly consultations for the next 5 years." Victoria collapsed into her chair, watching Diana walk out the same door through which 9 previous maids had fled in tears. But this time, she was the one crying. As Diana walked through the garden toward the gate, she could hear Victoria's phone ringing incessantly inside the house. Each ring was another crack in the perfect facade Victoria had built. And the most poetic thing of all was that Victoria had personally provided all the tools for her own downfall, from access to the files to the narcissistic compulsion to document every cruel thought online. Diana didn't turn back to look. She had a daughter to pick up from school and a new life to build. A life where dignity wasn't a luxury only some could afford, but a right she had reclaimed with the most powerful weapon of all, the truth, patiently collected and strategically revealed. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest or breaks things. It's the one who watches silently as you build your own guillotine, and then, at the exact moment, simply releases the blade you sharpened yourself. 6 months later, Diana was sitting in the modern office of the Children's Heart Foundation, not as a beneficiary, but as the new family relations coordinator, a position created especially for her after her story went viral and inspired a complete overhaul of the organization's assistance programs. Emma, now fully recovered, attended a private school on a full scholarship sponsored by the foundation. His heart tests showed a recovery that doctors called miraculous, but Diana knew there was nothing miraculous about it, just the power of a mother who refused to give up. "Mrs. Santos," said Dr. Martinez, entering the room with a genuine smile, "we just received 15 more applications for the program you developed. Families of domestic workers asking for medical help for their children." Diana nodded, organizing the documents on her desk. Each case received her personal attention because she knew exactly what it was like to be on the other side of that situation. Desperate, humiliated, but never without hope. Meanwhile, Victoria Richards' life had turned into a never-ending series of consequences. The charity donation fraud scandal not only destroyed her reputation on social media, where her followers plummeted from 80,000 to less than 500, but also triggered a tax investigation that revealed years of tax evasion. William had filed for divorce 2 weeks after the exposé, discovering that Victoria had systematically sabotaged not only his charitable donations but also interfered in important business decisions, costing the company millions in lost opportunities. "She's living in a rented apartment in Queens," Sarah Chen commented during lunch with Diana. "My cousin lives in the same building. Apparently, she doesn't even leave the house anymore. She's lost all her high society friends." Diana just nodded, showing neither satisfaction nor pity. She had learned that true justice needed no celebration. It simply happened, like a natural force rebalancing the universe. The most significant moment came on a Thursday afternoon when William Richards showed up at the foundation's office. Diana greeted him professionally, without a trace of the fear or submission that had characterized their previous encounters. "Diana," he said, looking older and more tired than she remembered, "I want to apologize. Not just for what Victoria did, but for allowing it to happen in my home. I knew something was wrong, but I chose to ignore it." Diana studied his face for a moment. "Mr. Richards, sometimes people have to lose everything to discover who they really are. I believe you are fundamentally a good person who has lost his way. The difference is that you can still choose to be different." He nodded, handing her an envelope. "This is a personal donation to the new program you've created. Not from the company, from me. And there's something else." Diana opened the envelope and found a check for $200,000, along with an official document. "It's the deed to a small house in Westchester," William explained. "It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and a good school in the neighborhood. I thought Emma deserved to grow up somewhere she could have friends and a normal life." Diana felt tears welling up in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you taught me that dignity cannot be bought or sold. Only recognized." He paused. "And because my first daughter would be Emma's age now, if she had survived. Maybe this is my way of honoring her memory." That night, Diana tucked Emma into bed in the small but cozy room of her current apartment, knowing that soon they would be in a house of their own, not because of charity, but because she had earned it through her own strength and integrity. "Mommy," Emma said sleepily, "the teacher said you're famous now. Is that true?" Diana smiled, kissing her daughter's forehead. "I'm not famous, sweetheart. I just reminded people of something they already knew in their hearts." "What?" "That every human being deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of where they work or how much money they have. and that sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who chooses to be kind even when others choose to be cruel. Emma nodded, already half asleep. Like you did with the mean lady? Exactly like you did, my love. Don't fight back with cruelty, but show through example that there is a better way to live. While Emma slept, Diana sat on the small balcony of her apartment, looking at the city lights. In just a few months, she had gone from humiliated maid to respected coordinator, from desperate mother to advocate for other families in similar situations. But the greatest victory was not professional or financial. It was proving to herself, and to Emma, that dignity is not something others can take away from you. It is something you carry within, regardless of where you are or how others try to make you feel. Victoria Richards had tried to break her spirit with humiliation and cruelty. Instead, she had unwittingly created one of the most powerful voices in the fight for labor rights and social justice. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up becoming the best teacher about who you really are. Diana's true revenge was not Victoria's downfall. It was building a life so full and meaningful that any attempt to diminish her became irrelevant. She had learned that you don't defeat cruel people by becoming cruel yourself. You defeat them by becoming so unbreakably kind and strong that your very existence exposes their spiritual poverty. If this story of how patience and dignity can transform injustice into purpose touched your heart, subscribe to the channel. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you, it's building something so beautiful that it makes all the pain worthwhile.